Hi, it's Jackie here from the LGFA. We're on another Zoom call today and looking ahead to some big fixtures coming up at the weekend. We're focusing very much on county finals, and I'm delighted to be joined by three people with more than vested interests in the respective counties. Leona Tector from Shelmalier and Wexford on the top left-hand side of my screen. Down the bottom left-hand side of my screen, we have Ronayne, who's the manager of the All-Ireland Club Champions Mourneabbey from Cork, who are looking to defend their Cork title when they take on West Cork Ladies, and Donal Barry, well-known sports journalist and ladies football aficionado down in Kerry, and also chairperson of Ladies HEC down on the bottom right-hand side of my screen. How are you folks? All good?
All good, Jackie.
All good, thanks. Yeah.
Excellent. Shane, I'm going to come to you first as the bragging rights as All-Ireland champions, Cork, Munster and All-Ireland champions. 7 in a row, I believe you're going for in Cork, Shane, Mourneabbey, up against West Cork Ladies. Beat them by 3 goals in last year's final, but they took you to a replay the previous year. And you've met each other quite recently as well, and it ended in stalemate. So West Cork Ladies are formidable opposition, Shane.
Absolutely. They're full of inter-county stars. I think I counted there, they have 9 on the panel at the moment, and I suppose Emma Spillane would be considered a Cork senior as well. She opted out this year from Cork, so they've probably 10 players of Cork senior standard, and the likes of Fiona Keating, who got 5 goals in the semi-final, would probably be considered able to play with the Cork seniors as well. So they're full of talent. I suppose they have a huge pick. I think there's 19 clubs they can pick from. So they're a serious outfit. We had a very good game with them at the start of the very first game, actually, of the championship this year, on 28th of July. It seems like a long time ago. I suppose both sides were kind of quite happy to come out of there, with a draw. We certainly were. We were missing 6 of the team to start the All-Ireland final. West Cork probably felt they left it after them that night in Mourneabbey. At the end of the day, the result didn't really matter going forward towards qualification, as all teams in Group 1 were going to qualify, but ourselves and West Cork were aiming to get the top 2 spots, so we ended up beating, both of us beat Air Oak in the group stage. We ended up in the top 2 spots, so avoided having to go into a quarterfinal. But they've been very close to us the last 2 years, especially. We got the run of them early in the final last year. I think we 4 goals got after about 22 minutes, and that kind of effectively put the game to bed. And I suppose we're good at holding on to leads, and something we've worked on down through the years. So I think that that's going to be very important Saturday from a West Cork point of view, that they don't let us build up a lead, because we are hard to peg back when we do get into lead like that. But look, we think it's going to be a huge game on Saturday, and we're not taking anything lightly. We're very, very focused. Training has been very good for the last 2 weeks since the semi-final. So look, we're hoping for a big game, and I think if we can perform, we can get the job done.
Okay, good stuff, Shane. I mean, we'll come back to how people can watch the game later on in this discussion. It's great to have the Irish Examiner on board to live stream the game, which is another indication of just how popular ladies football is becoming, and the recognition that it's getting right across the country, not just in Cork, Shane. We'll come back and chat about that shortly as well. Leona Tector from Shelmalier and Wexford is, as I say, on the top left-hand side of my screen. Well used to county finals, Leona. We were chatting briefly on the phone yesterday. I think I asked you to try and pinpoint how many you've played in and won down through the year. Did you come up with a final figure yet for me?
This will be my 23rd county final,
oh my God.
Senior county final, and so I've won 17 of them. Hoping to go for number 18 on Saturday at the weekend. The team itself, we're going for 3 in a row.
Yeah.
We've played in every final since 1992, except for 2004. And we've won 25 titles, and we're playing in our 35th county final. And we take on a formidable team that's coming through, Adamstown. They're in their first county final since 1991, when they beat Gustron by 1-5 to 2-1 in the county final. And they have won 7 titles, and they're playing in their 11th final. And just for the statistics, we've met them 4 times. We've won twice and they've won twice. So it's all down to Saturday to see who takes that role of honour.
That is nice. Those stats are good, lads. So, Donal Barry, down to you in Kerry. You tell me about the Kerry final that's coming up at the weekend. A repeat of last year's final, Donal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it's the third time in a row that Rathmore have been in the final. They've unfortunately come up short 2 years in a row, and I suppose this year, the system completely changed due to COVID. I suppose last season with the whole county and the club structure, there wasn't a whole pile of games played in our county championship, only 5 actually. In fact, this year due to COVID, strangely enough, we've played a lot more games, and there's been games running every Monday evening. And I suppose at the start there was only 4 teams in the championship, and people thought, it's a bit weak, but a home and away basis, and it's kind of produced the 2 farm teams are really in the final, have played each other already twice, and it sets itself up completely nicely for a repeat of last year's. Rathmore kind of might have been into last year's. They came through the softer side of the draw with big results, and then all of a sudden they ran into a very defensive kind of Southern Gaels who were able to catch them on the counter. And I think this year's final is just going to be something special, because it's unusual in the sense that the majority of the players on the teams won't be necessarily county players as well. Each would have a small picking of county players, but it really is down to club players. And I mean, some of the club players playing with Rathmore and even with Southern Gaels would have 10, 12 years experience. So I mean, it sets us up really nicely. And I was speaking to managers during the week, and the one thing that they kind of bemoaned about the whole lot was that this year the club county championship had played fantastic games, but there hasn't been anybody inside the gate to watch it. So I mean, it's kind of unusual that the 1 year that something's really good happening with the whole thing. But hopefully, we will have a good final. Rathmore finished short by 2 points last year. They finished short by a point the year before. They're nearly there. Obviously, people will know Aisling Desmond, and there's good picking of kind of minor players that have come through. And then Southern Gaels, obviously, they have the Kerry captain and Galvin. And I suppose people would also maybe shout out to Megan O'Connell, who would have been there in the past as well. And they would obviously have Shifa O'Shea coming through as well.
Yeah, brilliant player.
So they're the headline players. But as I said, there's not a lot of good players that aren't on the county for other reasons maybe. But when it comes to club, these 2 teams are the 2 farm sides in Kerry.
Okay, good stuff, Donal. Shane, nice blend in your team as well. You have that lovely mix of youth and experience. And I just want to ask you about the young players that come through. And I believe one of my colleagues, Declan, was chatting to Ellie Jack, very confident young lady. She's had a big few weeks with leaving certain results in that as well. She's been around even though she's so young. She still achieved so much, Shane. She came onto the scene, I think, in her mid-teens and has done extremely well. But when players come into a setup like that, they can't fail to be impressed, I'm sure, by the culture that's been fostered by the more experienced players. And coming in with that into that winning setup as well, Shane, it must be an absolute joy.
Yeah, look, I think Ellie started her first county final when she was 15. She scored 2 goals. I think she was a bit of a surprise package I think it was Vals who played in that final. They probably would have been concentrating on Ciara and Doireann, and all of a sudden Ellie bangs in 2 goals. And in fairness to her, look, she didn't start the last 2 games last year, the semi-final and the All-Ireland final. And she would have been disappointed about that. And I think she just
that's what you want, Shane, isn't it? Obviously. Yeah,
look, she came back very hungry this year, and she's been an absolute revelation. We've tried her at centre forward. I suppose we to replace Noel, and we actually, it's amazing to say, but we haven't missed Noel so far. You could miss Noel, when it comes to the business end on Saturday and things like that. But Ellie has incredible pace, and she's just come back with the bit between her teeth, and she's been fantastic. And I think we've had 1 or 2 younger players coming in every year, and that's really reinvigorated things. And there's been a lot of competition for places this year. We've lost 3 from the All-Ireland final last year. Noel has obviously gone back to Dublin. Emma Harrington is living in Ennis, so she couldn't commit with the commute. And Sheila O'Callaghan retired. She got married and she got retired. She retired this year then. So, but the younger players have stepped up. Ciara O'Callaghan, Aoife Walsh, who's been around with the team, the panel for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, wasn't really getting the chance. She's staked the claim now, and she's in cornerback since the start of the year. And it's great to see players like that pushing other players. But I think they have a good culture coming up as well. The underage structure is good in Mourneabbey. They're probably not being very successful underage, they're not winning a lot of titles, at A grade or anything like that. But there is a very good coaching structure there. There's a lot of people who were involved in the senior team before, like Jerry O'Sullivan and all, and Don Ford, and they just keep going back and they keep working with the younger kids. And a lot of the senior players actually, there's girls involved with the 14s and 16s, the minors. They always help out. Ciara contacted me there Friday night. She was going down and train the minors. Like, that's kind of the culture that they have in developing the club. So when the players come into the senior panel, they're well versed in all the basic skills in the game, left and right, kicking, hand passing. They know what's expected of them. So they fit seamlessly in, and they know that they work hard. And again, when they see the role models around them, like the O'Sullivans, they just buy into it very quickly. And I think they're great role models to look up to, and they know what the standards that are expected, and it makes my job far easier then that I don't have to cajole them along, because they know what the standard is, and the girls set those standards themselves. They're an incredibly easy team to train that way. You don't have to set standards, but they set them themselves. And look, long may that continue for them, because we have a lovely blend at the moment of that experience and the youth coming through every single year, which is very important. You need to look after that, and I think the club, in fairness to them, have always ensured that there's good level of good quality of coaching going on underage, so there's players coming through all the time, and hopefully that will continue.
Well, good stuff, Shane. And Leona, for yourself, I'm sure over the years that you've been at the club, you've seen many players come and many players go. What's been we saw that piece on 20 by 20 as well, and the players of the past and the questions that they were asked, from the dark ages kind of stuff, and how far we've come in such a short space of time. But you've seen a lot of history and a lot of players at Shelmalier.
Yeah, look, I've been so lucky. I've played with some of the greats that have played football. And we've had great success in the club. We were All Ireland club champions in 1996. We were beaten in 1997, and we were the All Ireland club champions in '99 again. Yeah. And I was younger back then looking at that, and it was great and it was fantastic, and it kind of set the standards. But I said one key thing in the club is it doesn't matter whether you're the all-star or the girl who can't kick the ball. Everybody is treated exactly the same, and it's a place where you can come and you can feel part of something. And I think that's been a key part to our success. I also feel this year, I know COVID has been, what it is, and, and there's lots of negativity about it and everything, but from a ladies Gaelic football perspective, everybody was around, everybody was available. We had no J1s, we had nobody, we had no contestant between county teams. We had girls who would have played County Camogie coming back and been able to play their club football, because they're now, they were given the opportunity to train, and it was just club. And it has been just such a nice experience to go over to the field in the evenings and train with the people, and things we took for granted, in terms of going to the field training, and we might moan and we might give out about it, but I think this year not one person has opened their mouth moaning about going training or anything, and it's just been lovely. The one thing, as you alluded to it, Donal, was it's an awful pity that people haven't seen the games. There have been crackers of games, and right through, whether it's underage games, junior games, senior games, there's been crackers of games. And I think it's been a great it's great that people are able to stream the games now. It's very disappointing, and it's kind of that the supporters can't be there, because they are the 16th person on the team, and part of me feels for Adamstown. They haven't been in a county final since 1991, and their supporters can't be there to share this experience with them. So it's going to be different, no more than the supporters that we have always had through the years can't be with us. But it's just a great time, and it's just so grateful that we're able to play at this time of the year.
Yeah, I guess there was a time this year when back in, God, I remember the day we were chatting and you had to pull the HEC finals. That tough stuff, and we wondered would we see another game of football this year in 2020, but we have, thankfully. So I guess the old saying, be thankful for small mercies. But in terms of the streaming piece, Donal, you have some news that we would have shared across our channels as well. You're going to be taking it upon your good self to make sure that people can watch the Kerry final at the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it's vital in a county like Kerry, where I suppose the number one sport, if we say it is G, and it's prominent, and we have a system where all the county games are covered now at the moment. And I suppose it's like every aspect of ladies football, that you have to take on a small bit of responsibility sometimes to make sure that it's shown and noticed and whatnot. And yeah, we are taking upon ourselves, Kerry Sports Hub, to stream the Kerry final. It's the first final that's ever streamed. Funny enough, we had played around with the idea probably earlier in the year, but COVID kind of has pushed it on us probably a little bit more than it is. It's free to air, obviously, as well. So some of the games you have to pay a $5 and the whole lot. And we kind of felt that there's a huge ladies football family out there, not necessarily in Kerry alone, but I mean, people that like ladies football like to watch us. And since we mentioned it, people rank from Sligo and Donegal and St. Quirk, and we get to watch and the whole lot. And I think it's very important, because The family is very small around the county as itself, and it's even smaller in the country, where we all know each other and we know all the players. And I suppose the one thing, when it comes to county final time, regardless of it being GA or ladies, there's a huge interest in it. And it's very important for the players, because an awful lot of these players are playing in their first county final, and their parents won't be able to watch them, their grandparents won't. The uncle that goes to every match since the girl was 12, he won't be able to go. So I suppose it's a poor substitute in a sense to watch it on the stream, but it is a substitute nonetheless, and it is a chance for people to see it. And the product will be good, obviously, hopefully on the day. The two teams, as I said, other clubs will watch it, other players will watch it. There's people coming in from Belgium who said, gee, this is great, I can actually watch it, which I possibly couldn't have done it last year. So all that, it's a plus and a positive on it. And again, like I suppose in the year with 2020 and the whole lot, it's important, that we shine the light down here as well. And obviously the Cork game, it's a huge game up there as well. It's funny about Mourneabbey, because we mentioned Southern Gaels, and from Southern Gaels were kind of flying at their time. It was the other strong team there in Rovers that we were playing, which kind of predated the Mournebbeys, and we'd say we would have known a lot more, done more on those sides. So Southern Gaels are coming through the circle again. Rathmore, in fairness to them, as I said, a young club started off in the 90s. Spent an awful lot of time, like Shane saying, developing under 12s and 14s, never really winning anything, never been hugely successful. All of a sudden, National Desmond probably pops out of maybe 10 years ago, the first Rathmore girl to get kind of noticed. And in all fairness, since then, they've built their adult structure. They've gone from junior, C, B, A, all the way up along the way, and they're knocking on the door. And there's huge interest within the club, the Rathmore J Club itself, with the ladies club. It's one of those unique clubs where it doesn't really matter. You remember Rathmore, the jersey goes on. They've 3 pitches. They've all really well looked after. The ladies football inside there, and there's obviously a lot of links as well. There's brothers and sister connections with Kerry and the whole lot. So they're really up for it, and it's just to tune in and watch it, and hopefully we'll get out the other side of it. And it's like all the games, it's going to end in extra time or penalties, so there's going to be a winner on the day as well, which kind of adds to the excitement of it as well, to be all done and dusted. And then people will be asking who's going to be the intermediates and who's going to be the juniors, but we're only covering the senior one, Jack.
Yeah, we've so many finals over the weekend. We sent out a list of results there earlier on in the week, Donal, and it goes as long as your arm. So if we chatted about every game right across the country, we'd be here till midnight. So we'll stick with the senior grade for now. Donal, you might just have a little think about in terms of, and I'll come back to you in a couple of minutes, in terms of what way you're looking at doing Sunday's game and the logistics involved. So I'll come back to you on that question. Shane, you're quite a busy man, back in school. And preparing to welcome back your Tipperary players into intercounty training as well. So where do you get the time for all of this?
I don't know, and I suppose you're in lockdown, you kind of realise how busy you are. All of a sudden just stopped there when when that, I suppose when the HEC finals were called, off and on the Thursday.
It was a horrible day. Yeah.
And we had been training the night before in UCC. And all of a sudden it was suddenly gone. There was no, lull or break into it. It was just gone, and everything was gone. And I was involved in 3 teams at that stage. Mourneabbey had just started back up, and you're thinking, at that stage I probably was gone a bit stale from it, to be honest with you, Jackie. I've been on the go now so long. So I didn't mind the break actually for a couple of months. I didn't miss it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I missed the interaction, but I did train and having to go train, and then
because you're with UCC as well, Shane. Yeah.
Yeah, I was with UCC as well. No, I didn't do a lot of work with them last year. John Cleary came on board with me, so in fairness, John took a lot of the pressure off me because I was very busy with Mourneabbey and obviously with Tip. But the intercounty scene is starting next week again. We hadn't done it, and we haven't even spoke to the girls now in a long time. We met them there once during the summer just to tell them what the plans were, and we let them off to their clubs, and we told them how important the club championships were. And I think most girls are really enjoying it. I can see that from my own girls in Mourneabbey. They're really enjoying the club championship. And I think, there's no pressure on them there. And I feel that myself as well. I've only one team to concentrate on at the moment, Mourneabbey. Obviously that changes next week. And I think, look, it's going to be a difficult situation. I do think next week, and I'm not giving out to anybody, but it is going to be very, very hard for intercounty players coming back next week, because with no dressing rooms, no food facilities, it really is going to be very strange. And there is a big fear out there. I spoke to a couple of other managers as well. If it's wet nights and things like that, girls are going home, they're wet. they're going to end up with symptoms of COVID, and they won't have COVID at all. And then that creates a problem about work and about school and about college and about their housemates and people in the house. And it's a worry. It is a worrying time. I would have been a lot more worried about the virus within the squad and things like that. But it's more actually the health and safety and, that aspect of it. So that is a worry, and trying to find facilities. We've been very, very lucky for the last few years. We've worked out of the school in Colossian East Gig and Care, and we've had fantastic facilities there. But obviously, those facilities aren't really, the fields will be available to us, but the changing facilities and the toilets and things like that are a huge concern, but they're not available to us, because obviously with the ETB we have to be very careful about how we use our facilities and how strict things are in school at the moment. So it is a big concern for us.
Shane, out of interest, what's the farthest a player is travelling to get to inter-county training? Where is
with TIP? We possibly would have a couple in Dublin now. I don't know what their situation is. Like we have a couple of girls in Dublin, Marie Creedon, Roisin Daly, Ashley Maloney. Now I don't know if there's a couple of girls now that they're done their leaving search. We could have a couple of more. Like we never, to be honest, Jackie, we never expected those girls to come home during the league for training. So we always took that. We trained the girls who were at home. Any girls who were in college, we never expected them to come home, because they weren't getting expenses and things like that. And we actually felt it wouldn't be conducive to a good session, that they're coming home and they're tired and things like that. But I suppose now, with the season being so short, we'll probably need to see them. So if the girls are in Dublin, I think I was talking to Ashley, so she's going to be there 1 day a week, so she mightn't be in Dublin. I haven't been speaking to the other girls. I would say Dublin, you'd have girls in Limerick, you'd have girls in Cork coming back to TIP for training. So you're talking an hour and a half. Yeah. You could be over 2 hours from Dublin. It's just going to be, I think it's going to be very, very hard for those girls, and you can't feed them and you can't do this. And, you try to do the best for them. And, it's certainly not going to be a very easy situation for any county, I think. Maybe might be a bit easier for Dublin and maybe Cork with the girls within the city. But Cork, talking to Efi as well, like he's got girls down in Beara, which is an hour and a bit, hour and a quarter.
Spin, yeah.
It's a huge spin, and I think it's very concerning for lots of inter-county managers. And we're just a bit apprehensive about next week, about how we're going to do things and how we're going to get facilities, because we've been very lucky, as I said, for the last years. We've had the use of these facilities, but look, times have changed this year, and and I don't know, is there with some players, is there going to be huge appetite for playing either, because they're really enjoying the club scene, and I'm enjoying it myself, and I think the club has been very, very important this year. And as Leona said, it's an absolute pity, I suppose, that teams haven't, or people haven't been able to see all these games, because there's been fantastic games and there's been great buzz around. Even when teams are losing, there's a massive buzz around at the moment, and with the club scene. And look, we are a bit apprehensive, but look, we'll deal with it as best we can, and hopefully, the rules might relax with regards to dressing rooms and things like that. Look, we've had suggestions ourselves, if half the team could use the dressing room, or the girls who are travelling might be able to use the dressing room, and use the shower facilities. The girls who are close by and local, who can hop in the car and get home. Look, they don't need to use the facilities, but the girls who are travelling a distance, need to be looked after, because their health and safety has to be the number one priority, and we can't have them exposed to looking like they have COVID symptoms when they haven't got COVID symptoms, because that creates lots more problems.
Yeah, it's a minefield. It really is at the moment, Shane. And please God, we get our championships done. But you might keep us posted on how things are going, Shane, when you do get back to training, because I'm sure there'll be a real interest in that and how the various counties are doing. Leona, I think it's fair to say that life won't be the same again for a while, if ever again. It's how has the last few months affected you, and how much did you miss football, and how good is it to have it back? And just in general terms, how has life been for you, Leona?
Yeah, no, it was a shock to everyone, I think, when COVID was imposed on everybody, like back in March. And I think initially I was so caught up in work, because I actually manage a service desk team, so I had to get 500 plus people working from home, so I didn't have 2 minutes to myself, so it didn't really bother me too much from that point. But not being able to go to the field and not being able to interact with the people that you see, and like these are, it's everybody in the field, it's the community, people go to the field, not just the people that you're actually training with, but you see your whole community in the field. If you want to see somebody about something, just go to the field between the hours of X to X, and you'll definitely bump into someone. And it's just it's been difficult. We didn't go back training until we could actually go back fully training. We didn't do the 15. It was just another week we had to wait for the club to actually start off training. But since we've got back into the field, like people, I just think people have time to talk to each other, and time to actually genuinely, they're not rushing from one thing to another because there isn't anything else on where they need to be. I think it's been a big plus to a lot of club teams to have their county players to be the leaders, to be there when the under-8s are training on the other field, and they can see these players, that you're trying to look up to and that they're trying to follow and they're trying to be like, so I think it has been if there's any benefits, it's definitely been a benefit to the clubs, that we've been able to train. We've been lucky as well with the weather. Just listening to Shane there, there's a couple of things that have made the game different this year. The fact that you don't have a dressing room beforehand, so you might have been using the psychology of going into the dressing room. The game starts once I step across this door. I become serious, or I tune in my head at this point, or whatever like that. And all players are different about how they do that. We don't have the dressing room, so we're getting dressed in the backs of cars or at the boot of a car. And there's obviously been the challenge then with younger girls, where taking off their jerseys and putting on their jerseys and that kind of stuff without a dressing room facility. And I suppose as you go down, I can see exactly where you were heading, Shane, in terms of wet weather pitches, trained for a long time with counties and stuff like the county as well, and it's going to be a challenge for everybody, I think, to kind of get over that. But there is one thing, I think the people who they will get over it, and they will want to play the football, and they will go out and do it, and they'll be resilient enough to keep going, to play the game that we're all here to play because we love. So I think
good points.
That's kind of what I feel is going to come.
Yeah, I suppose, look, Donal, there's so many issues and so many problems that we have to get through, and on a normal week. And Shane, you might have been involved in it the way with the rise of Tip in recent years. We would have been looking forward to All-Ireland finals next Sunday coming, and we don't have that. And look, the Inter-County Championship will be played, but fingers crossed, but it will be played, if not behind closed doors, with very little supporters. And I don't think that's good for anybody, because I've seen some fantastic occasions over the last few years, and I think I've referenced it on a few times. For me, Donaghmore against McHale Rovers, All-Ireland Junior Club final up in a packed Ballinasloe last year was one of the highlights of my year. And club matches, you have the visibility of inter-county matches that are promoted year on year, but the club stuff is very, very important to us as well, and it's lovely to be able to give it that airtime here. Again, really unfortunate that no spectators will be present, Donal, but at the same time you are in a position to bring the game, the weekend's Kerry County final, to people who want to watch it. So what's involved, and what kind of work will you have to put in advance of making sure that, I like when somebody tunes into a live stream, they want to make sure that they're able to watch it and that it stays stable for the 60 minutes.
Yeah, I suppose we're walking the field and fussing every minute to test the Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is king now more than anything else. I suppose the one thing Leona is right. The club is the community, and I suppose the one thing about it is for Ladies football to be part of that community. The club is there, the gate is open, people go in whether they go to matches or not. People like to know what's going on. Shane kind of references there about he having a tough day when he had to call 3 UCC teams off. Well, I had to call nearly 22 buses off coming down to Kerry, and referees who are halfway down past Laois wondering, was Leo going to say anything good or bad or stop the whole thing? Yeah. And from the college's perspective, before I go back to it, we have another additional problem, because with the whole travelling between teams and the buses and the social distancing and the whole lot, and again, obviously, we're lucky enough, I suppose, up to last year that we would get a lot of GA pitches. All those are going to be pulled from us now, because they're not going to leave people that they don't associate as local within their bubble. So, I mean, we're going to have fierce difficulty. Then, of course, the inter-county season now all of a sudden has been pushed back into the college season. So Shane was really appreciate the fact that I might have to have a college game on a Wednesday night. They're training with the inter-county thing, and then they're out in the inter-county on Sunday, and then they're back into the college again. So that's going
we'll have another show on that down the line.
So there's going to be a lot of stress.
Get the boxing gloves on.
probably a lot of stress coming down there. Putting the whole package together, you know, in all fairness, we're with a company called Sideline Eye. They do an awful lot of streaming.
Yes.
They're proper professionals. It'll be 2 or 3 cameras, different angles, the whole lot. We have our commentators gone in. We're looking for a couple of pundits, obviously. A lot of shy pundits out there, Jackie. People are afraid to be very honest. They might have very short-lived careers if they are too honest. So we're on the lookout for a couple of them. But like the one thing about it for us is it's a service that we're providing. It's going to the clubs. We have linked it to the competing clubs website. It's also linked to the Kerry's website. It's going to go on the Munster website as well. And we're going to give the link to whoever wants it on the day, because as I said, it's not about making money about the occasion. It's about, you know, promoting it. And in all fairness, it's important for us, obviously, as a brand as well, Kerry Sports Hub, because we look after nearly every other sport in Kerry. And obviously, as the 2 guys would there know, we probably have a little bit more sympathy for ladies football, being involved with it for so long. And I think, you know, it's very important to give them their light nearly all the time as well. And apart from that, Jackie, it's just going to be a cracker of a match between 2 teams who played each other twice already, a draw in one game, 4 points in the other game. They played each other last year until only 2 points. And you know, it's just one of these games that people are saying, you know what, there's a lot of football matches on over the weekend. This might be the best pick of the whole lot of them to pick a game up, and I'm hoping people will tune in and support. And we have the kind of link on the side, you know, where you're watching from and all that as well. But look, at the end of the day, we hope it goes well. We wish both teams absolutely well. We wish our refereeing officials very well. One of the groups who have said to me during COVID is an absolute blessing not to have supporters in the stand. You know, the games have been refed relatively easily.
I see Shane smiling there. Shane's friends.
We've got the thing right, and the umpires have got the calls right, so they'll certainly will enjoy it on the day. The only thing is they're on video now, so hopefully there'll be no mistakes. But we think it'll all go well, Jack.
Good stuff, and I wish you well with it. Donal, Shane, just on the Cork one, the Examiner are obviously on board. I'm sure. A little bit of a brain fart here at the moment. I'm sure we streamed your All-Ireland semi-final live last year, and then you obviously had the club final live on TG Cahir. But to have the Examiner on board and showing such interest in this final, Shane, it's a big deal.
Yeah, look, it's huge. You know, they got on board with the Cork GA during the summer. You know, when they realised that, you know, there was going to be very little supporters going to the games. There was only 200 at the time. And, you know, there's been huge interest in the games, you know, that have been streamed in Cork over the last 2 months or so. So, you know, we're delighted, you know, that they've gotten board, you know, that Ronayne and the lads have come up with this concept. And I suppose it is a very busy weekend in Cork. They're showing 3 other games as well. Yep. So, you know, that they're actually giving us the profile, I suppose, is fantastic. And, you know, look, we're all delighted for that, because, like, in the last few years, like, I suppose since I've gotten involved, the crowds that have been at the Cork County Final and CIT, it's been massive. Like, you know, you have a few thousand people at the match, and brilliant. You know, that's going to be a big difference on Saturday. And, you know, I suppose to give the opportunity for, as Donal mentioned, all the parents and grandparents and uncles and aunts, and, you know, who love to see, and we have an incredible following in Mourneabbey who've gone all over the country with us. You know, wherever we played, the north, west, you know, Dublin, wherever, they've always been with us. And I suppose it's very hard for those people, I think, you know, who are going to games all the time. And you know, it's fantastic that the Examiner have gotten board, and they have looked at they're going to, no doubt, having looked at some of their games that they've covered in the men's championship, you know, they'll do a fantastic job. Yeah. And, you know, like in fairness, last few years as well, County Sound C103 have done live commentary of it as well. So that's added to, you know, for people's entertainment at home who couldn't go to the game a few years ago, in the last few years. But look, we're delighted to be part of it. Hopefully we can put on a good spectacle again. It should be a good game of football. So, you know, there's huge interest in it, and you know, hopefully that everything will go right in the day for us, because you know, it is going to be a massive, I suppose, boost for ladies football in Cork that it's been streamed live. That's the first ladies football final ever be streamed live in Cork, and you know, hope we can do the game or do the occasion justice.
Good stuff. I'm sure you will, Shane. I'm sure you will. Good stuff. And Leona, from your own point of view, I'll finish up with your good self. Obviously, the Wexford final has been streamed as well, which is great for supporters. But as what do you feel the experience is like playing without spectators, or being involved without spectators? You know, does it dilute in any way your edge or your motivation? I'm sure it doesn't, but I'm sure there are. You can feel the difference. I mean, you talk about the 16th supporter, the 16th woman, the 16th man. If you have somebody roaring you on at a crucial time in a game.
Yeah, I suppose it does make a difference, you know, on the big occasion. But once you cross the line, you're out there to play the game, and like that's all you're interested in doing. Like, and I don't think you need the crowd to motivate you. And you know, the motivation should come from within yourself, because this is a great opportunity to be playing, and you're playing the game that you love. What I do notice about the dynamics of the game is it's gone to 4 quarters. The water breaks in the games are becoming key moments in time, and things are being, you know, balanced. The first 15 minutes, you know, you've time to spot, fix and correct after 15 minutes, or to continue or change or whatever. Like, they're becoming key moments. It's only a minute, but you'd be surprised the interaction that you can get done in that minute. And like, I think that's the dynamics have changed in the game, and that, like, you know, because you've got like the 2 water break stoppages and half time, like, you know, to reset and everything like that. So I think that's an interesting aspect to the game this year. The crowd, yeah, you'd love to have people there, but you can just hear the instructions a lot more clearly coming from the line, obviously, because there's not that many there, you know, but it's just when you cross that white line, it's up to you, the 15 players that are put on at that point, to knuckle down and get on with the game, and, you know, and just play as you can. And if you're just waiting for the crowd to be there to perform, well then, you know, you kind of might have to have a little chat with yourself.
Okay.
You know,
No.
just in terms of the streaming, the semi-finals were streamed for the championship in Wexford, which was really, really good as well. You know, and there's 3 finals being streamed. It's obviously the first time that we'll have streamed either, but the junior, intermediate and senior final are all being streamed on Saturday. You know, and the Shield finals and stuff, they're trying to see if they can do something about those as well. So they're trying to cover every game in Wexford at the moment. So
Good, so
really
good times ahead for spectators everywhere. Good.
Yeah.
And folks, I wish you all the best. Leona, the very best for Shelmalier against Adamstown in the Wexford final. Shane in charge of Mourneabbey, the All-Ireland Club champions, against West Cork Ladies in Cork. And Donal Barry, who will be part of the team streaming Southern Gaels against Rathmore in the Kerry final. Folks, good to have you on board today. All the best the weekend, and thanks for talking to me.
Thanks a million, Jackie.
Jackie.